Up on the Brave Sports Network here on this Wednesday, we have back-to-back coaches shows beginning with the Landon Bussie program. Nate Kilbert will join us a little bit later. Actually, assistant coach Lisa Powell will pinch hit for head coach Nate Kilbert, and Andre Payne will pinch hit today for Landon Bussie. Glad you could join us here on the Brave Sports Network, 91.7 WPRL at WPRL.org, and our Facebook page, 91.7 WPRL. We're going to talk some Braves basketball coming up. The Braves getting it done on the road. A lot of teams are getting it done on the road. The Braves have won 3 in a row on the road, and they're trying to make it happen yet again. Actually, 4 in a row on the road. If you look at the Florida swing, they won over Bethune-Cookman and FAMU, and they beat Valley as well as Arkansas Pine Bluff. There have been so many teams that have gotten it done on the road. Why is that? We have questions. Maybe Coach Andre Payne has some answers. And we'll talk a little bit about Andre Payne's journey back to the SWAC. Of course, he was here under former women's head coach Courtney Pruitt. He was an assistant for the Lady Braves, and here he is, assistant for the men's program, was the head coach at Mississippi Valley on the men's side. So he's got some SWAC hours, some SWAC experience, and we'll talk about this Braves team as we try to get back on track. You can text a question, 601-301-2611. You can tweet a question on X, Tall Man Radio. We'll take a 1-minute break, and when we come back, we'll talk the week that was Braves basketball. Big wins over UAPB, who had beat Grambling a few days prior to our game. So what can we expect? You know, Grambling goes down. Alabama A&M the other day. Southern's in first place alone. What can we expect here the rest of the way? We'll talk about it with assistant coach Andre Payne after this timeout here on the Braves Sports Network.
Founded in 1920, the Southwestern Athletic Conference has produced some of the most iconic names in sports. Alabama A&M, Alabama State, Alcorn State, Bethune-Cookman, Florida A&M, Grambling State, Jackson State, Mississippi Valley State, Prairie View A&M, Southern, Texas Southern, and the University of Arkansas Pine Bluff have united to embark on a new era of greatness. The Southwestern Athletic Conference, building champions for life.
Here at Alcorn, we understand that we share some commonalities with one another, so in some ways we're already family.
Seeing everybody, seeing more people that looked like me and had the same mannerisms as me, it was fantastic.
The variety of people here really made me feel at home.
When I stepped on campus, it felt like I was supposed to be here.
When they say the grass is greener here, they really mean it.
Perform and compete.
And we welcome you back to the Davey Whitney Arena on this Wednesday. Glad you can join us for back-to-back coaches shows. Assistant coach Lisa Powell pinch hit for Nate Kilbert coming up next. But right now, Andre Payne pinch hitting for Landon Bussie on the Landon Bussie program here on the Brave Sports Network, 91.7 WPRL and WPRL.org. And we are also on our WPRL Facebook page, Facebook Live. You can give us a call. You can text a question, 601-301-2611. And you can also tweet a question. All right, let's talk some Braves basketball. Assistant coach Andre Payne joining us here on the program, pinch hitting for Landon Bussie here on this Wednesday. Coach, we appreciate you coming on.
Thank you for having me.
This has been a pretty nice run here, getting it done on the road. We got to get it done right here on this floor. I think that's probably the next step of this thing.
Yes, indeed.
But and we have 5 at home and 2 on the road as the schedule flips after last weekend. But it's good to win on the road. It's never easy to win on the road. And, you know, let's not discount Mississippi Valley, a winless team, and yet they gave us some fits. Pine Bluff coming off the big win at Grambling, so you're catching a Pine Bluff team that felt pretty good. And yet we were able to get it done on the road. So just talk about this last road trip. What were some of the keys and just trying to stay focused?
Well, one of the big things is defensively. We were able to go out there and impose our will defensively on them. You know, that's a big key to Coach Bussie in this program, is to go out and every night we hit the floor to make sure that we're trying to hold team to a minimum, making sure that we're rebounding, that we're defending, playing great help defense, and that's just a big part of what we do, and that's our DNA.
How tough has that been able to sell, especially with yourself and 2 new assistants trying to learn what Landon Bussie wants out of each and every day. And he even talked about it, how this is kind of a new team, not exactly, but some new pieces on the staff, some new pieces on the roster. And it has not been an easy transition. It was tough non-conference, how much you got done with that. And then stepping into conference, the loss to Jackson State, we got a little bit going. But then we've lost the last 2 at home and trying to get back going, 4 in a row on the road. Just talk a little about just the adjustment, just learning, everyone learning what Landon Bussie has to offer and just the intensity he brings.
Well, I mean, for me, I'm a defensive guy myself, but it's always an adjustment because you're learning the style and play in which your head coach want to implement within his program. I think for the assistant coaches, it's not as tough. Always tougher for the players because they want to put points up, and we've improved in that area too. So once the guys they've started to buy in and understand the direction in which we're going, because as Coach Bussie is our leader, he's shown us and given us directive in the way that he wants to go. And hey, now it's all about us just following his direction.
And he's about as intense as it gets. And we're kind of at I wouldn't say at a tipping point, but we're at a critical point of the season in the last couple of weeks. I mean, losing 2 here and then having to win on the road, which is never easy. I mean, we were kind of sliding down the rails there, but we kind of got it back on track. So let's start with UAPB, a team that beat Grambling 5 nights earlier. So you look at the UAPB, Coach, a team that makes a lot of threes. They get out and run, but they're still a three-point shooting team. I think they were number 1 in three-point makes going into that game. So what was the challenge when you look at this lineup with Milton, Martin, Pitt, French, Joe French, who was the Bethune-Cookman transfer, and Ware? What were some of the challenges in the scout and getting ready for UAPB?
Well, we knew we had to guard up. We knew we had to guard beyond the three-point line. And so having 3 or 4 days to prepare for that, I think that helped us tremendously. We made sure that we made the adjustments, having to have help rotation defense, that we were able to do that, but at the same time able to recover out quickly on those shooters because we knew what those guys could bring. I mean, they have a reputation of shooting it 3 or 4 feet away from the three-point line, and that's what we worked on all those days.
I remember Joe French, when he was at Bethune-Cookman, he was a three-point specialist there. I don't know what happened there, but he transferred to UAPB, and he's very much an integral part of that three-point shooting machine. Talk about what that piece and how it kind of enhanced UAPB, especially in the backcourt.
Definitely. I mean, he brings another flow to their game. I mean, when French has the ball, he opens up the court for so many of his teammates. But one thing that we did discover as we watched film, that he wasn't a great ball handler and it wasn't a great defender. So honestly, we played defense with offense because we put him in a lot of ball screen situations. That was something that Coach Bussie wanted to do, and he stressed all week long that's what we were going to do. We were going to make him defend, and not only just him but his teammates, because if typically you find a team that shoots a lot of threes, they're not the greatest defensive team. They want to get out and go and let it fly, and so we made our offense become a defensive unit for us too, a defensive mechanism rather.
And then for us, we made some changes in the starting lineup. You look at that, Peugeot started in that game with Byron Joshua, Jalen Hawkins, Jeremiah Gambrell, and Jeremiah Kendall. We've seen some changes in the starting lineup here of late. Just talk about the little tweaks there to the starting 5.
We have a unique team. We have 8 guys that probably could start for us, to be honest with you, and that's a blessing for us. And so sometimes we just make adjustment to the team that we're going to play in case, in our situation, injuries. When Michael come in the game and he's able to produce right away, you're talking about an undersized post player, 6'2", that went out and I think he may have had like 7-8 rebounds that game. I mean, anytime that you can do that, then you know that you have a lot of pieces that you can throw at people. And so that's what we take our pride in, that when one man goes down, the another one is up. And so, it worked out for us, and we're thankful that we have those pieces to throw at people.
And, of course, Peugeot stepping in for Bayard, who's not 100%. We'll talk about that as we roll along. So let's look at that Pine Bluff game. It was 29-28 at the break, kind of back and forth. We were up, and then they made a run, and it was kind of a nip and tuck game, 1-point game at the break. Talk about the first 20 minutes. Did it kind of play into what you were looking for?
Yes, we knew it would be a tough game. The crowd was great there. I think they had a great crowd there. They started off the game. We were defensively into the game, but we weren't able to score like we wanted to. But as long as you have defense, you can keep yourself in the game until you're able to score, and that's what happened for us. And we were able to get out and get some runs, which allowed us to go into halftime with the 1 point lead. So we felt good. Anytime you go into halftime on somebody else's floor, that's always a step up for you.
We extended the lead. We were up by as many as 7 kind of early in the second half, and Pine Bluff made a little bit of a push. Then their head coach got a technical foul, which kind of swung the momentum. It was kind of a 4-point possession, if you remember. So they got a couple of free throws, and just when you thought Pine Bluff was making another push in that second half, with their coach gets a tech, and then we just kind of take over from there. I'm sure you noticed with this team, one of the things that coach talks about is when they hit, we quickly strike back and take the crowd out of it. I'm sure you've seen that in a lot of the road games in conference. How important is that, especially in that situation where, I guess in this case, Pine Bluff took themselves out of it because they were making a push. The coach gets a tech. It was a 4-point possession. And I think from that moment on, I think a lot of the air went out of their sails.
Definitely. I mean, it's so ironic that you say that because the next scout of Mississippi Valley was my scout, and one of the things that I reiterated to the guys, I said, hey, we have to take Valley crowd out of it just like we did Pine Bluff. And that was a big key to our success up there at Pine Bluff, because like I said, they had a good number of fans there, but eventually it was solid. And to be honest with you, the only thing you could hear Coach Bussie giving instruction on the floor. And so I felt very good when I knew that we had quiet in their fans because they're student bodies. Of course, they were sitting right behind us, and they were talking a lot of trash. But by the middle of the second half, they weren't saying very much, and so I knew that we were on the right track.
Well, they cut it to 5 with 5:21 left, and then we went on a run. Thorne hit a 3 to put us up 8, and then that was kind of the final nail. Speaking of Thorne, we've been talking about his development. It's been kind of a struggle for him in non-conference. It seems like the last several games he's trying to find his stroke.
Definitely. As you can see, he has starting to come off the bench for us like our 6th man, and he's played that role well. From my understanding of what Coach Bussie has told me, that's what the role that he played in the past for the school, for the team rather, and I think he's just comfortable in that role. When he comes off the bench, he get a chance to analyze and see what's going on the floor. And once he hits the floor, I mean, I call him Mr. Bionic, man. His arms are so long. He gets so many deflections. And he's a big part of our success and what we've had in these last few games. His minutes are probably still about the same, just the difference is he coming off the bench playing those minutes.
And you, as a former head coach, I'm sure you know his story as well as Peugeot. They're both walk-ons into this program. And for those two to be walk-ons coming into this program and to be where they are, getting minutes, making things happen, just the development. As a former coach yourself, to see stories like that, I'm sure it kind of puts a smile on your face knowing that you can work your way up and into a certain situation.
Definitely. I mean, you have to give Coach Bussie great credit for that, to take 2 young men as walk-on and to develop them where they're now good enough to get a scholarship on the Division I level. I mean, that's kudos to him because, a lot of coaches won't deal with walk-ons. So, I have to say he's done an outstanding job in developing guys. And to be honest with you, on this level, that's what you have to do. Sometimes you don't get a chance to get, the top tier players. So you take those players that are what I call decent players, and in 2 or 3 years, now they're outstanding players for you.
Well, the Braves win 68-56. Jeremiah Kendall with 16, Jeremiah Gambrell with 13 points, Thorne with 11 points off the bench. Good scoring. Everyone who contributed, everyone who played contributed in the game. The one area, though, Coach, has been kind of a thorn a little bit. No pun intended. We're talking about thorn. A thorn in our side. Free throw shooting. Last couple of games we were, 13 of 24 against UAPB. We've had our struggles from the line. How much of a speech is that? And Coach said it's going to be something you're going to be working on the next couple of days. At this point of the season, you shouldn't really be talking about free throws, but we're talking about free throws, at least not making them anyway.
Well, definitely. I mean, you don't want to be talking about him, but we both know you've been in this profession a long time, seen a lot of basketball games. It happens. And sometimes what happens is once you started talking about it, that's when players start to get a little nervous. I think we're going to be just fine. Of course, as coaches, what we're doing now, we're implementing more free throws within practice. Definitely when they're tired, to be able to step to the line and make them. Coach Bussie has, he brought it to our attention in the staff meeting because he's huge on looking at statistics. And that's one area that he's emphasized that we have to improve in. And I totally understand where he's coming from, because when you are going down the stretch and headed to the SWAC tournament, you definitely want to be able to step up to the line and at least shoot 80% for the night.
Well, it looks like we got back a little bit to our defensive principles. We gave up 78 against Grambling, 71 against Southern University, 67 against Bethune-Cookman. We're getting back a little bit, and even Coach talked about defensively seeing some improvement here lately. What are you seeing in the biggest improvement defensively over the last 2+ games?
Just the guys rotating. I mean, and communicating on the floor. It's amazing to sit over there and hear those guys communicating and talking to each other and pointing and giving direction. And that's the thing. That's huge. One of the things we've done better at, we've been rebounding defensively, and that's helped us out tremendously. So because you don't want to play defense for 27 seconds and then the team shoot a ball and now they get the rebound, offensive rebound, and now you got to play defense for 20 more seconds. And so Coach has been emphasized, because that's Coach DNA, that defense. And believe me, we have gotten in the gym and we've worked on it, and you can see the results.
You talk about communication. I've been fortunate, or I guess unfortunate, to be, when I come into the arena, especially on the road, you get a chance to watch some of these other teams and their shoot around, and you catch the tail end of it. And every coach that I've seen, that I've had a chance to watch their practices, even if for a minute or two, I can hear it in the hallway when I'm standing out in the hallway. You got to talk. You got to talk. You got to communicate. You got to talk. You got to talk. On defense, you got to talk. That's a challenge, unfortunately, in this game. And I've heard coaches all throughout the league say the same doggone thing. You got to communicate on defense. You got to talk. That's a challenge. Why is that a challenge?
Well, the athletes these days, they have some selfishness within them, and so they can think they can get things done on their own. But that's why you have 5 people on the floor, because it takes a unit of 5 to be able to go out there and accomplish the goal of winning. Well, you got to be able to communicate. That's simple as that. Anything that you're doing with somebody else, you have to have communication. And so whether it's 2, 5, 11, or whatever sport it is, you have to be able to communicate, but so that you're on one accord. And our guys are buying into that now. They're repeating. When Coach Bussie yells out a play or a defensive scheme, you can hear all 5 of them repeating that, and that is great, because now if there's 3 people on the floor thinking that you're playing a trap, but 2 of them thinking you're playing a relaxed defense, that can become a huge problem. And so that's been huge for us to communicate, whether it was switching, trapping, or whatever defensive terminology you want to use. That's why communication is so important for us.
Yeah, you got to communicate on defense. You got to know what's going on behind you. I mean, the guy sneaks in behind you. You got to communicate, got to know, got to slide over, all those things. As the Braves get it done against UAPB. And now, Coach, we make the 2-hour trek from Pine Bluff, Arkansas to Itabena, Mississippi, where you're very familiar with Mississippi Valley. You were the head coach there. I saw you walking into the gym, talk about that and just coming back to Mississippi Valley, a place where you kind of cut your teeth in the SWAC.
Definitely. I mean, it was definitely exciting, definite memories. I was the first head coach to coach in that new facility. I have a lot of good memories there. So it was fun going back. But, someone asked me and said, Coach, do you feel sorry for Valley? I said, no, indeed. So I enjoy the relationship and that I have there, the people that I've met. But we was there to take care of business, and that's what we did.
We won 72-55, and it's the proverbial trap game. Valley winless on the season, winless in conference. What's deceiving about that record as you looked at them and as you scouted them? what was deceiving about it? I mean, you can't be fooled by the record. There's something is positive there. You talk about George Ivory, was the coach at UAPB, was interim AD at Valley, now the coach there. The 2-3 zone, that's his calling card. That's where he's earned his money in this league. But it didn't see a lot of that, though, in this game for whatever reason. But still, it's something you had to prepare for.
Oh, definitely. And, you know, as I mentioned earlier in the program, Valley was actually my scout. And George, like you said, he's a veteran coach. And so whenever you're going against a veteran coach, you know there are some tricks that he have in his bag. And so we wanted to be prepared for whatever he can throw at us. And we knew he would play some zone. We thought it would be a little more. I think he played more man because he wanted to speed it up. But we were able to handle whatever he throwed at us. I feel that that our guys were prepared mentally because of our scout. I told the guys that, hey, don't look at their record because this is in-state rivalry. These guys, I told them, I said, they already know they're out of the SWAC tournament. I said, but they feel if they can get an upset over us and Jackson State, that'll make their year. I said, but we're not going to allow them to have an upset on us tonight. And I think the guys took that to heart. And, we came out and handled business. And like I say, with Coach Bussie, there's never a dull moment in practice, and he keeps the guys going. That's one thing I say. So they were ready. We were ready mentally. We were ready physically because under the leadership of Coach Bussie, you're going to be there. You're going to be ready mentally and physically.
Well, we had to be ready for Raekwon Brown, who was leading the league in scoring, and he had 20 in the first half, so that was kind of concerning. We held him to 6 in the second half. He had 26 for the game, but he was getting his spots, and he was knocking that stuff down.
Definitely. I mean, we knew. We said he was a capable 3-level scorer, from the three, beyond the three, mid-range, and at the basket. We didn't know he was going to be that good beyond the three. He was having one of those Steph Curry moments. I mean, everything he touched, everything he threw up was going through the basket. And one thing Coach reiterated at halftime, like, guys, just keep playing, keep closing out, keep doing your job. He will eventually miss. Of course, we put a little more emphasis on guarding him and shading him the way that we wanted him to go in the second half. And fortunately, we were able to slow him down. But, it happens. It happens in the game of basketball. That guy gets that lucky hand, and there's nothing you can do about it.
Yeah, and we shut him down in the second half, just holding him to 6 points. It's one of those that I felt like, Coach, that if we contained him, then someone else was going to have to step up. And it was a lot of complimentary scoring, but really no one else stepped up for Valley. They had some scores against Jackson State 2 nights earlier, but we really kept everyone else in check. And we really kind of took Brown out of his game. What was the key to slowing him down in that second half?
Well, we played a little more aggressive with him. We put a couple guys on it that had a little more length to be able to distract that 3-point shot. And I think once we done that, it kind of took him out of his rhythm. And once we took him out of his rhythm, we shut down their go-to guy. And we knew he was the go-to guy.
The Braves win 72-55 in that game. Jeremiah Kendall with 20 points. Got hit in the forehead. Landon Bussie got a technical. I mean, I didn't see it. He clearly was upset about it. Jeremiah Gamber with 15 points. Byron Joshua with 10 points. And Thorne off the bench with 11 points. Coach Alex Sinkovich, kid from Belarus, gave us some minutes the other night. I'm kind of seeing a little bit of growth and development from him. He's on the floor more. He's throwing his body around more. That's just some of the things that he's improving on in the post.
Oh, definitely. Alex is a big guy. 6'10", 230. It's no secret. He doesn't have some of the athleticism of some of the guys, and it's a little tough sometimes for him to move, but he has improved. He's one of the hardest working players that we have, just to be honest with you. And as you said, that you can see now he's starting to play more and more minutes. And where I think is really going to come in play for us is when we get to the SWAC tournament. Let's just say we're facing a team like TSU who have a 6'9", 6'10", or Alabama State who has a 7-footer. That's when you really need Alex to go out there because, like I said before, you've been around long enough to know that you can't coach size, and that's what he does present for us, coach size. And he allowed, when he's in the ball game, he allowed Jeremiah Kimball to be able to be guarded by somebody his size, and versus being guarded by somebody that's maybe 3 inches taller and 15 pounds heavier. Alex kind of gives him a relief. where the bigger guys guarding him.
And speaking of a big guy, Benet had opportunities in the Valley game. And I was talking with Coach Bussie about it after the game. Just can't finish. Just can't put it in the hole. And you got to continue to work with him on that. He's getting there, but you got to finish it.
Definitely. We're excited about what he brings to the table, and we know he'll put it in. He's a big, strong kid, hard worker, and that's why at the beginning of the show I was saying that we have so many pieces we can throw at people. Although he didn't put the ball in the basket, he had 6 rebounds.
Yeah.
That probably was more rebound than all the reserve post players together for Mississippi Valley, what they had. So, that's where I look at the positive. Maybe he didn't score a bucket, but he had 6 rebounds. That was great.
That was really important. We're going to look ahead, of course, to Bethune-Cookman. They'll be here. Bethune-Cookman, near the top of the league. And I reposted a story on my Facebook page that came out about Bethune-Cookman, led by head coach Reggie Theus and the job that he's done. And they're right there near the top of the league. So we'll be talking about that. Coach, recruiting. You and I talked about recruiting before we went on. This is the kind of open period until the end of the month. Once March rolls around, the door's shut as far as recruiting with the tournaments and all that. We got a text, how is recruiting looking going forward?
Oh, definitely. I mean, we're on several kids here in Mississippi. We're of course, we're in the state of Texas looking at some guys. I think we're going to be just fine. The portal is going to open up. So with recruiting now, one thing you have to have is patience, finding the player that fits your program. And I think that's why Coach Bussie has been so successful here, because he's had enough patience to find the right fit for a program. A lot of coaches just go at, this kid can score, I want him. But can this kid defend? Can he defend? And you are more of a defensive style coach. And so that's why I have to give credit to Coach. He's been patient to find the kids that fit his program.
Yeah. And this is that time of year in which talent is all over the place. A lot of high school tournaments, high school championships, and the like. Before we get into our preview, Coach, we are a little bit banged up. Bayard was not on this last trip. Talk about his situation and how's it looking here as we come home.
Oh, he should be back. He had a little knick-knack injury there that we wanted to get better. We're thankful at this point in time that we don't have anybody seriously injured that we know of. Of course, as you go through a brutal season pre-SWAC and then going into the SWAC, which is one of the toughest leagues, you're going to have some guys that get injured. And we're fortunate to be one of the teams that a lot of our key guys are playing and able to continue to play versus having to sit them out.
And then Masanat went down here 2 home games ago. Talk about his status.
Right now, we're waiting on the results of his MRI. Preferably he's going to be okay. We have to wait and see, because he was playing some good defensive key minutes for us. We'll see how what happens here, but as I stated earlier, when one goes down, the next player is up and ready to go for us, and that's exciting for one of the excitement things for this program here.
Well, we hope for a speedy recovery for both. As we get ready for this next homestand, Coach, an important homestand as we continue to try to climb up in the standings. Let's look at what we've got coming up next. We've got Bethune-Cookman, the Wildcats, rolling in here. And as we pull up the standings here, Coach, Bethune-Cookman is 7-4. They're 2 games out of first place. There's a 2-way tie for third. Southern is in first place of themselves. Grambling in second. As you look at the standings there, and you look at where we are, Coach, it's at 6-5 with Jackson State, as well as UAPB at 5-6, a 3-way tie with Alcorn, Jackson State, and Alabama State. So Bethune-Cookman, give us your thoughts on what we can expect here the second go-round, a game in which we just got out of Daytona with a 70-67 win.
Oh, definitely. I mean, they have probably one of the best scoring point guards in the country in Zion. I mean, he can put that ball in the hole. I think
Zion Harmon,
yes. I think he was a 4-star athlete coming out of high school. Hetty, who's a 6'6" wing / forward, who can give you 18 to 20 points on any given night. Those guys, man, they honestly have 5 or 6 guys that can give you double-figure points. And so that's the scary thing about them. You never know who is going to come out there and score. And but the good thing about it, we play defense. So we're going to get ourselves prepared. It was a dog fight down there in their gym. We were thankful to come out with the win. Went down to the wire. Yes, indeed. Yes, indeed. Yes, indeed. It went down to the wire. It was probably one of the most exciting games that I've ever been a part of, and we're looking forward to hosting them here. And but once again, we coming in. We are ready to get the win. We feel like that our defense is good enough, and with our offense picking up the way it is, that we definitely can handle anything that they throw at us.
And then FAMU comes in here. You look at Florida A&M right now. They are 2-9 in 11th place. But what's deceiving about that 2-9?
Because they've played so many games close. You know, there have been several nights or days after our game, I'll look at the ticker and see what they're doing. And I'm like, wow, they lost in the last second. I think the last game they just lost here in the last second to Texas Southern. And so they're a scary team. They have a couple guards that are really good and they can shoot it. And they have a big guy in the middle that he's about 6'10", probably about 260, and he's a load to deal with. And so they, you know, those are teams that can sneak up on you. You know, you have to let your guys know, don't look at their record. Don't worry about, you know, what the win and loss columns. Just follow the scouting report. Come every day in practice, ready to perform, ready to get prepared, because we don't want a team like that to upset us.
And we've seen many an upset at home. Teams are struggling at home. We've struggled at home. Jackson struggled at home. Grambling has struggled at home. Texas Southern has struggled at home. It's been tough for the home teams. And, Coach, finally, we got to get back on track here at home. The last two games against Grambling and Southern weren't too pretty. If we're going to stay in the conversation for the top of the bracket, we got to get it done here. We got 5 here and 2 on the road.
Definitely. I mean, you always want to protect home. You know, it is. You know, we're trying to figure it out. Like, come on now, we could go on the road and perform and do the things that we need to do to come out with a W. We need to be able to do those same things here. But as a staff, Coach Bussie has some ideas and some things that we're going to implement, and I think we're going to fix, you know, the little kinks we have at home. I think we'll be just fine.
Coach, we appreciate it, man.
Yes,
Continued
sir.
Success. Let's get this one here at home. These next 2.
Yes, sir. Thank you for having me.
That's Assistant Coach Andre Payne, pinch hitting for Landon Bussie. We'll take a timeout here, a 2-minute break. Lisa Powell, boy, she was popular the last time she was on this stage. She's back. It's pinch hitting for Nate Kilbert. She'll join us. Lady Braves got back on track. There's a pathway forward to make the top 8. We'll talk all about it in 2 minutes with the Nate Kilbert Show coming up after this. Timeout.